In many ways, Sonic Heroes is treated as a black sheep amongst the main 3D Sonic game releases of the 2000s. Yes, it's not absolutely panned like Sonic 06 or memed to death like Shadow the Hedgehog, but it doesn't receive the same amount of praise and respect that games like Adventure and Adventure 2 tend to get from the fanbase. And why is that? Well, it doesn't appeal to everybody. The game is structured around replaying the same levels 4 times in a row just to see it to the very end, and there are issues with controls that make it slippy and hard to maneuver when platforming. However, that's not to say it doesn't have its fans, and there are certainly plenty of people out there who feel very passionately for Sonic Heroes and have learned to overlook and overcome the issues that other people might find too invasive, and what they're left with is a game they enjoy deeply. With the game getting ever older, the question remains on the mind of if it will ever get a remake. And whilst that could be an interesting discussion, I want to steer the direction a little bit more into looking at the vibe of Sonic Heroes, because one thing it certainly does well is establish its own unique tone and atmosphere amongst its peers that were coming out around the same time. It's a very colourful game, both in terms of literal colours, but also in the way it expresses itself and its ideals. All the teams are made of a trio of dynamic, clashing personalities that play off each other in interesting ways and that don't replicate the way the other teams' dynamics play off each other. The world environment is creative. It's like someone having one of the best dreams of their life and then painting a picture based on it. You've got strange giant cities with hover cars and power plants with glowing roads. That doesn't quite make sense if you imagine trying to get to work there, but feels fantastical and distinctly Sonic. The same can be said for the giant whale mountains occupied by orcas and ancient temples that rise from the bottom of the sea. Or it can go to strange mystical forests with glowing plant life and frogs that can control the weather. Sonic Heroes is not afraid to be abstract with its level designs and themes, and the characters play along with it. Despite how different most of the level themes are to each other, you don't feel as if this game is a hodgepodge of random environments. It feels like a consistent experience because of the theming, the vibe of the game. Light-hearted, fun, expressive. And this is something that classic Sonic in general really nailed down. All of the early games were bound together by those core themes, but when the series moved into 3D with Adventure and they developed things further and steered the direction in a more modern take, some of these themes faded away, though I would argue Adventure still holds most of them to some degree. Afterwards, Sonic Adventure 2 takes things further in the development, but at the cost of some of these old themes. That is neither good or bad, it really depends on personal taste. But Heroes goes right back to where it was in the classic games, and I think it is the 3D game that most resembles the way the series used to be back then. But Sonic Heroes doesn't stand alone in this. The Sonic OVA, which did release closer to the classic time period than Heroes did, granted, was still another project that was somewhat detached from those classic games, but still emulated the tone and vibe of them perfectly. You have nonsensical environments like floating islands or crashed passenger planes that have been overtaken by nature, and now anthropomorphic animals live and operate their base from within it. You have a President Monkey Man who leads his species of elf-eared people whilst trying to stay away from the evil Robotnik in the fallen lands below. You have vibrant neon cities with Eggman memorabilia all over the place, and then you have great plains with giant hills and storming clouds despite having sunlight. Even the robotic designs of Sonic Heroes and the OVA share some overlap, where you've got these expressive henchmen of uniform design with minor alterations for different purposes in both. And Dr. Eggman himself in these games is very expressive and comedic, but takes himself seriously despite that. Despite the fact that the OVA and Sonic Heroes are separated from being in the classic times to the modern times, they have a lot of connecting DNA. We already discussed Eggman, but you can look at Tails, where both of these stories definitely portray that he is a younger kid compared to the rest of the cast, and he has fears and superstitions and childish wants, yet they still manage to show that he's apt with technology and also capable of supporting Sonic in the field at the same time, which is something that some of the modern games do not succeed in doing. They even both feature Metal Sonic in a prominent role. This is highly coincidental, but it is a comparison you can make between the two. And a lot of people like thinking Metal Sonic is more important than he is, and perhaps part of that is because when you try to boil down Sonic to some of the most iconic aspects, or a theme and tone you can look around, the imagery of a robotic doppelganger of Sonic made by an egotistical maniac that believes it's the superior version is a striking image, and both the OVA and Heroes provide that. Once again, all of this is down to preference. It's not right to say that this is objectively better than, say, Sonic Boom and the way it set up its world. Obviously, I far prefer this vibe than the Sonic Boom one, but that's my opinion. But what I do want to talk about is that perhaps leading into these tones and design decisions could be a nice way of helping revive some of the characters. Sega is, at last, taking its world and characters seriously once again, but some people aren't quite happy with the setup Sonic Frontiers has done in that direction. My opinion is it was their first step. Let's at least see what the second thing they do is before we complain. But regardless, perhaps Sega could adopt some of these ideologies into it. With Tails, it's quite clear that people don't like when he's just a technician and that's the only thing his character's about. So maybe we could try blending in some of the balance between childlike personality, competency in technology, and willingness to physically get involved. It wouldn't be easy to do a one-to-one because Tails, since this time, has advanced as a character and gotten over some of his fears. The criticism you can throw at Heroes is that they regressed Tails to present him that way in that game after Adventure 2. Of course, Heroes was designed to be an introduction as the first multi-platform Sonic game, so I understand why they did that, but you can criticize it. So don't flat out copy it when you try it here, but perhaps be inspired. What do you think though? Is this too much of an idea weighed down in past and nostalgia? Or can you see what I'm getting at when I talk about the identity that the OVA and Heroes both share despite the differences between them, and you would like to see it come back? Let me know in the comments down below, and thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. I hope you have a great day, and to see you next time. This is the Mighty Emperor, signing off.